Thanks for having me. I'd rather be here than in grey, wet and cold London, so thanks for having me. And I thought it's a British person speaking, so I'd start talking about the weather first, which is always a good start. So my name is Tom Beattie. I've got this here as well. Can you hear me? Brilliant. So my name is Tom Beattie, and I'm Head of Animation and Kids at Tiger Aspect Productions, and I'm also the producer of the second series of the animated Mr. Bean. Tiger Aspect have produced children's shows for the past 15 years, including shows, the multi-BAFTA award-winning Charlie and Lola, Me and My Monsters, a live-action puppet show with Jim Henson's, Tinker Tinker Tales, and of course Mr. Bean, just to name a few of our output. Tiger Aspect also is known for other genres, including drama. A few of those are Ripper Street, Peaky Blinders, Billy Elliot, and Mad Fat Teenage Diary, as well as a new series called Peaky Blinders, which you can see there. We're also known for comedy, with shows like Vicar Dibley, Catherine Tate, Harry and Paul, Mr. Bean and Blackadder. And also we're an Endemol company, so we produce some great programming, including Big Brother, Deal or No Deal, £1 Million Drop, and Wipeout. So Bean is back. Next year we're celebrating the 25th anniversary of Mr. Bean. So it's not really gone away. Most people I tell about the 25th anniversary usually offer an expletive about how old it makes them feel. But it is an amazing anniversary for a television character that is known and loved globally. I'm here today to talk to you about producing the second series of the animated Mr. Bean and how we're transforming the character from live action to animated series. I'm going to talk to you about the origins of Mr. Bean, why we developed the first animated series, and why we're producing the second series. I'll also have lots of clips, which should jolly things along and hopefully make you laugh. I feel a bit of a fraud talking to you today, because firstly, I didn't create Mr. Bean, obviously. That was this guy here, Rowan Atkinson, who with Richard Curtis created this man, Mr. Bean, who we all know and love. Secondly, I'm far too young to create Mr. Bean. This is me when Rowan first started developing the character in the 1980s at Oxford University, and this is me when it first aired on the TV in 1990 on New Year's Day. I've obviously not highlighted the age difference with Rowan or what a cool dude I was. But I did work with Rowan on the first series. Here you can see I was more of a supportive role, literally. And then I'm now currently working very closely with Rowan on the second series. This was last week on our last voice record. I looked quite nervous because I think I was quite shocked that he allowed to have a photograph taken with him, so I was quite pleased with that. So Rowan created the early embers of the character Mr. Bean while studying at Oxford University, though this character wasn't called Mr. Bean at that stage. But even before university, at a very early age, Rowan had played with a character with silly faces who didn't say much. Rowan always loved to make his classmates laugh and hide behind a character. At Oxford University, Rowan was part of a comedy group called the Etcetras, which was part of an experimental theatre club which put on revues. This was around 1976. At this club, Rowan formed a special working relationship and friendship with Richard Curtis, who's the far-right character here. Richard has long written with Rowan on Mr. Bean, as well as Blackadder, and has gone on to great success with projects including Four Weddings and a Funeral, Notting Hill, Love Actually, and Tall Guy, to name a few. He's also a founder of Comic Relief. Also centre frame here is Howard Goodall. Howard is another long-time collaborator with Rowan and Richard, and has written all the music for Blackadder, as well as Red Dwarf, Mr. Bean, Vicar Dibley, and he's currently writing the second series music with me. At university, Rowan and Richard created a sketch about an unnamed character who couldn't stay awake. During the late 1970s, Rowan toured with a one-man live show that included this character. This meant that he could play with and understand what this character did and what got a laugh. In 1979, Rowan was offered his own TV sketch show based on this live show for which a pilot was created. It was called Rowan Atkinson Presents Canned Laughter. In this series, there was a character called Robert Box, who was starting to become Mr. Bean as we know him now. The name Bean wasn't thought up until after Rowan was commissioned by ITV to create a TV show called Mr. Bean in 1989. During early production, they threw around a variety of names for a character, originally Mr. White, and then various other names based on vegetables, before Mr. Bean shone through as a very punctuate and clean name that the character could say, Bean. I'm getting good at my impressions, by the way. I've got more if you want them, but So why did Tiger Aspect transform Mr. Bean into an animated series? To be honest, it was a natural progression. Mr. Bean was hugely popular, and Rowan was keen to explore other vehicles for the character that didn't involve acting in front of a camera or getting on that famous suit again. It was also a way to give fans new material and give the brand more longevity. Rowan was one of the founders of Tiger Aspect, and through this company explored options. It was in early 1999 that the tender was put out to create a classic-looking animation series that would last the test of time. The original commission for the series was an interesting one, as it came from ITV Comedy, adult, not children's. It was created for the family slot on an early Saturday evening, but by the time we delivered, that slot had gone by the arrival of the shows like Pop Idol. For a while, the animated series of Mr. Bean didn't find its audience, but since then has gone on from strength to strength, finding a huge worldwide audience. The first series was created with the London studio Richard Purdham's, with Tiger Aspect producing. Richard Purdham was the executive producer and director on the series and brought his wealth of traditional animation background. All the voice records, animatics and design were created in London, then hand-drawn and animated in Hungary, Eastern Europe. I'm going to play you a clip from behind the scenes of the first series. This is a making-of that we created to show the process and Rowan's involvement. You will see that we filmed Rowan acting out key scenes from the animation so that they could use as a reference for the animation. In this clip, Rowan is acting out a scene where he is pretending to dance with his female idol, a pop star. He's using a broom as his partner. So can we play clip 2, please? So to produce the second series 10 years later, we couldn't afford time and money to produce the series as hand-drawn again. This time we needed to find a digital transformation, but I wanted to match the first series so it played alongside it. This was not going to be a reboot. Why mess with something that looked beautiful and played so well and, to be honest, had become a classic? Tiger Aspect have a long working relationship with the creators of a software called Cell Action 2D. We produced Charlie and Lola with it. Other shows that use it include Peppa Pig and Sarah and Duck, as well as many other programs internationally. It's a British software that when I first approached them was not capable of producing a series that matched the hand-drawn animation of the series. But with months of R&D and up-to-the-wire changes, I'm pleased to say that the outcome has matched or improved the animation from the first series. I'm now going to play you a video while I continue to talk. This video is filmed from the screen of our animation director, so you can see how the software works and the complexities of the Mr. Bean build. So you can play clip 3 while I carry on talking. So working with Rowan on the second series has been a fascinating education, though to be clear, we still have another year of production to go. So I can see a massive Mr. Bean in the corner that's putting me off quite a bit. Rowan is a comedy genius, and we often receive a masterclass in comedy. One of the points that Rowan wanted to address on the second series was that Mr. Bean becomes central to the stories and Mr. Bean's ways of doing things. There's no point putting Mr. Bean in an aeroplane for him to do loop the loop, because the funny things about Mr. Bean is in his acting and his character. The Mr. Bean funnies is when he can't open a door, he trips over, or if he's just walking down the street. There are lots of middle grounds of what Rowan wanted to do and what we could do. Rowan wanted to frame most of the shots wide, so you see the full body shots and Mr. Bean's full acting. Rowan introduced me to the name of this framing as the proscenium arch. This is the arch above the theatrical stage where the audience are not guided where to look with close-ups. They decide where to look. This is obviously very difficult to do in animation because we have those cheats of cutting to just single headshots or close-ups of something else because you can't animate everything in full body. But we do try not to crash zoom or make things too obvious for the audience. And I actually think this is a clever proposal and will work better for repeat viewings as the audience will see new things each time. Rowan also wanted to see a lot of the secondary characters in shot. Again, that's a bit of a pain because you've got to animate a lot of secondary characters as well as Mr. Bean. People don't realise or forget that the animated Mr. Bean does use dialogue, but it's very limited. We have the confidence to use words to iterate poignant moments. For example, when someone says, "It's over there." The guy is pointing, so it's pretty clear what he's saying if you're in Japan or if you're in England. But there are times when you need more dialogue for story purposes. Obviously, comedy and timing is key, especially to Rowan. He breaks down comedy to a science, and there are moments where we're literally moving sounds by frames when you hear a scream or a crash. And there's the music. Rowan likes to pare back the music so it's not all wall-to-wall. You can sometimes give more of an emotion with no music at all. It also gives light and shade to the audio mix, rather than a full-on backing throughout the episode. I'd like to play you a couple of clips as a comparison from the live action to animation. It shows how we can have Mr. Bean jokes but push them a little bit further in animation. The first clip shows Mr. Bean waking up in live action, and then the second from the second series of the animated. Okay, can you play clip 5, please? So people ask what exactly Rowan does in the second series and if he's even involved in the process. To be honest, what stage is he not involved in? So Rowan gives notes at every stage. We start with the seed of an idea. For example, Mr. Bean gets stuck in a lift. We then will provide Rowan with a paragraph, an outline about Mr. Bean visiting a department store and he gets stuck in a lift. Mr. Bean has obviously caused this lift to jam. He's trapped Teddy in the doors. Rowan will then say yay or nay before we progress with a 4 to 5 page detailed outline, which once approved goes to script, and then Rowan signs off after seeing a few drafts. Rowan then sees the different stages of the story processes from animatic to animation and audio mixes. He also voices all the 52 episodes. All this input is not a bad thing. Rowan created and has lived with this character for 25 years plus. He knows how Bean would react, and if Bean would be in the scenario or that storyline. This is a creator-driven project. To prove this, I'd love to show you a clip of Rowan in a voice record for the second series. We film all the voice records so the animators can use for a guide. As you see, he gets into character, and in this story you'll see that he has to rescue Teddy from being blown up, and then he also sees Scrapper the cat and has to rescue him as well. So can you play clip 6? I get the pleasure of seeing that every 2 weeks, live Bean, which is amazing. So I'm proud to say that all of the production is entirely produced in the UK, back at the office in Shepherd's Bush. We have a crew of over 50 producing the 52 episodes over 2.5 years. It's not the quickest show to produce, but we're investing in making a show to last. This is some of the crew here who feature as Bean characters in one of the episodes on a police station wall. The man with the big head and the scar in the middle is the director, Tim Searle. He hasn't really got a scar, it's just a picture. The studio includes art direction, edit, design, animation. It's currently the largest animation production in the UK, and I'm really pleased that it's showing that we can produce 6+ years comedy and not just preschool in the UK. The crew love working at Tiger Aspect, honestly they do, because we do have such a diverse output across the group, and we're not just an animation studio. It makes for interesting Christmas parties with TV crews and animation crews mixing together. And in fact, I'm missing my Christmas party right now, so you're very lucky to have me. The UK government is very supportive of the animation industry in the UK after a bit of lobbying. And here you can see Mr. Bean being used as a poster boy for the UK Trade and Investment Department. We've made use of the UK tax break, and which has enabled us to make Mr. Bean all under one roof. For me, this was the only way of doing this. From seeing Rowan in a voice record, From seeing Rowan in a voice record, for him to say Bean should act like this, and then we go back to the animating studio and go, he said it like that. You know, you can't do that in an email, so it's much better. Rowan also comes in and visits the studio a lot, and that's great for the animators to meet the person they are actually animating. It's not often you get that. You don't get Peppa Pig doing a tour of the studio going, oh, very good, I like that. So what has Bean become in those 25 years? Well, simply a phenomenon. From only 14 episodes of live-action TV series, we have 2 feature films and now 104 episodes of animation. Mr. Bean is global, and there are very few people who don't know who Bean is. There have been recent surveys that showed Mr. Bean and Rowan Atkinson to be the most recognized and loved comedy and character and comedian. There are lots of facts I'd love to drop about Mr. Bean. He has nearly 63 million Facebook fans and is in the top 30 of the world, bigger than Mr. Bean, bigger than Manchester United. We have higher page engagement than The Simpsons, SpongeBob, Angry Birds and Moshi Monsters. If you're not a fan, where have you been? We have over 1 million subscribers on YouTube, and we have over 1 billion views and growing. Mr. Bean has been in continual distribution for 24 years and is currently airing in over 80 countries. Not only that, there are the fans. Fans who love the car. Fans who love to paint. This is a guy recently in the US, which are amazing. I haven't shown Rowan yet. Then there are fans who love Mr. Bean's face and love to put him on everything. If you just do a Google search for Mr. Bean, this stuff comes up. And there are even people who have Mr. Bean tattoos. That's mine on the left. In fact, if you've got spare 5 minutes to see how popular Mr. Bean is, play my new game, Bean Bingo. Open Google image search and type in Mr. Bean and another famous person's name. For example, Mr. Bean Obama, Mr. Bean Pope, Mr. Bean Queen. I'm yet to find one that I can't see, but I think I really should get out more. We've been able to produce the series due to our broadcast partners, CITV in the UK, Super RTL in Germany, and Turner Worldwide with Boomerang Cartoon Network. The show is distributed by Endemol Worldwide Distribution. If you like what you see, please contact them. So to conclude, Mr. Bean is big, Mr. Bean is back, we're back again, and he's on Boomerang. I'd like to finish by showing you a sneak peek of a scene from the second series. This episode is called Valentine's Bean. Mr. Bean has decided to be romantic, well, in his own way. We catch up with Bean as he's about to deliver a surprise Valentine's card to his girlfriend, Irma. Play clip 8, please.
I'm going to give Tom a break for a minute and just ask Gary some questions. Gary, when the second series of Bean is launched, Mr. Bean is launched, it's going to be a real flagship for Boomerang. Why do you think Bean is such a good fit for the brand? What do you see as being its key audience in Asia?
I guess when you're building a destination for young kids and their family, you really have to be pretty targeted about the shows that you're looking for. Currently, as you've seen, we've got shows like Tom and Jerry, Scooby-Doo, Pink Panther, Garfield. All those shows have a lot of heritage. So we're also looking to add to that with shows that can, underline what the overall brand promise is for Boomerang. And Mr. Bean sits perfectly in that environment. It's got charm, as you've seen. It's carefully crafted, and it's got a lot of heritage of its own. It was a perfect fit when we were looking to add to our library of content for the channel.
Yeah, and I think, as we're all aware, Asia Pacific actually consists of a number of very diverse markets, and I think I'm right in saying that you've been part of 3 separate teams that have bought a Mr. Bean series over the years. So clearly you think this kind of animation travels well.
Thank you.
Tell us why.
I have been a part of 3 separate teams to secure the services of Mr. Bean. Unfortunately, I haven't had 100% record on that. That's why we never talk about it or bring it up.
Did you miss it? Yeah?
I'm joking.
Okay.
But purely, for want of a better expression, it is safe comedy. It's recognised and trusted by parents, and most importantly for us as a broadcaster, Mr. Bean is predominantly driven by visual comedy, which you don't have the obstacles or the issues of dubbing for a multi-regional channel, which we are in the EMEA and we are in Southeast Asia. So it does take that component out because there's obviously costs, there's obviously timelines attached to dubbing content, and you don't have the complications of how things are actually translated. So it's perfect.
Yeah. With Mr. Bean's obvious longevity, from your experience as a network programmer, do you find that animation repeats well? Is it better than live action in terms of being able to show it again and again?
Short answer, yes. I mean, in my experience, 15 years in the kids' universe, animation has got longer legs than live action. Drill down a little bit further, and comedy animation has got longer legs than some of the animated adventure action titles, which we see it after about 4 or 5 repeats per episode, the numbers will start to tail off. But comedy, it does have longer legs. But it's an age-old discussion, live action versus animation. Live action first run hits peaks with TVRs that some of the animation shows can't. So there are pros and cons. But animation, it doesn't age as quickly as live action. So yeah, we're very fortunate because we're predominantly an animated business.
Yeah, sure. One more for Gary before I tackle some of the questions from the floor, I think, for Tom. So can you tell us what you do beyond animation with Mr. Bean? A broadcast like Turner has to be looking for more than just the series, I get. So do you get digital components along with it? Do you look to license and merchandise? What else do you have?
Well, you know, our business now is beyond TV, so yeah, of course, you know, we need to be where our audience is, you know, acquiring a show and then doing your 30-second promo and your print campaign isn't enough anymore. We need to be where our audience is, and where kids are on mobile, on app, and online. So we need to sort of change the way that, you know, how we promote ourselves and where we are. And you know, we try to buy as many rights as we can from our clients or from our producers. But if we can't, we always try and work with them, because, you know, kids are playing games, creating games, they're watching clips, they're posting on forums, so we need to be there. And, you know, the kids are using, as I say, mobile apps and websites. Some kids are using all three of those while they're watching the TV at the same time. So it's important that we're there. And Turner next year, we've had a huge investment into that side of the business. So we've got some exciting things coming up next year, on the app especially, and mobile games. And it's all really to try and drive kids back to the channel to experience shows like Mr. Bean and some of the other shows you've seen.
Brilliant. Thanks, Gary. As I say, we've had questions coming through from the audience, and the audience gets to vote on the ones they want. So I'm going to ask Tom the most popular question, and I'm sure he's not going to tell you the answer. But how much did it cost to produce an episode?
Yeah, no comment.
Okay, I'm glad we got that one out of the way.
Was paid
Okay. Is there anything you can tell us about pricing, without actually naming numbers? Is there anything you can say about the costing on this?
Have my positive comments increased the price per episode? I think I might have made a boo-boo here. It's an all right show.
Yeah, I'd rather not go into those kind of details.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. Well fenced. Okay, can you? There was a long time lag between the two series, Tom. How significant do you think digital media was in keeping up interest and momentum for the Mr. Bean brand between the two series?
I mean, unbelievably, from those facts that you can see about Facebook, you know, from the introduction of Facebook since the first series, and how that sort of engaged, you know, all that stuff you can see, all the fan art they're creating online, and just, you know, he has that face that you put on certain things, and, you know, he's the go-to face for funny. So, you know, that's so much helped keep Bean alive between those series. But I mean, don't forget we had 2 feature films as well in the middle there, so that generated thing. But yeah, it was really important, especially for the love that there is for Bean, and now coming to this second series. And
and the concept, a good concept and a good show is a good show, and there's a new generation of kids coming through. So, you know, it was absolutely apt that they, you know, went away and made some new episodes, brought it up to, you know, up to date.
Yeah.
So.
And what's amazing now about Mr. Bean is, you know, most of the kids nowadays only know the animated Mr. Bean and don't know there's a live action. So that's kind of a bit weird, but that's the age they are and what they're watching.
Which segues beautifully into another question from the audience. Has Rowan shown interest in making a comeback for live action versions as well? Any plans to roll out another film? Has he said anything about those issues?
I mean, I'm not really at liberty to comment about that, but no, that's not a yes or no. But no, I mean, he's recently just got the suit back on and dyed his hair for a Snickers commercial, which is in China and the UK. But as far as the TV series, there's nothing new. But, you know, 2015 coming up, 25th anniversary, watch this space, you know, let's see what happens.
Yeah, I saw the commercial. That was an interesting development, wasn't it? Great commercial.
Yes, it was, yeah. No, but it is, yeah, 25th anniversary, we're looking to do, you know, some events and things around this great celebration, so hopefully we can get him to do some things.
Another question that seems to be gaining popularity from the audience is, which I think you might be able to answer, is what would you say are the 3 key things to preserve when you're animating live action figures? What do you need to take over? The essence.
Well, I mean, I haven't done many live action to animation conversions really, so, but you know, as always, it's the character, so you've got to give those essences, you know, and with Mr. Bean being such a non-verbal and visual character, you've got to get over those acting points and comedy points through the language of that animation. So, you know, I think character is the key for me.
Do you think it's possible to know up front whether you have a show with global appeal, or is that just something that you just have to leave and hope for the best? I mean, did you really expect Bean to take over the world? I mean, obviously you weren't in charge at the start, but you've been around the character all that time.
Yeah, I mean, no one can ever, predict there's going to be a global, nor when you're creating ideas or projects, you go, this is going to be global. I mean, yes, there was a heritage for Bean already that was known worldwide, so you would hope so. But, the first series didn't hit straight away because it was sort of lost in that tea time slot that went to reality TV. Boo. But then it's found its audience and they love it and stuck with it, so it's good.
Which is a nice point in itself, because I do remember being around when the first series was commissioned, and it did get lost a little bit, didn't it? And it's interesting that shows can have endurance. They can find their time and they can find their audience, can't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it was made for a main channel for a Saturday slot, and I'm not sure the kids channels are around as much then and playing as much content, but now they are playing that and played it more, and I think that's how it found its home.
Another question from the audience. Can you tell us a bit about how big the animation and production, how big the animation team and the production crew is? I mean, what sort of size operation is this?
So we've got 50 of us in the office producing the series. So we have 4 art directors, 10 sort of designers, and about 20 plus animators. That's a massively reduced crew from the first series, which was about 500 on the first series, because it was all hand-drawn, so there's a lot more work involved in there. So to be able to match the first series with that smaller crew is brilliant.
Gary, just what kind of involvement do you have as the show is in production? I mean, I don't know what kind of partner you are. Do you get to make notes, to make comments, or given that it's a very protected brand, you have to just steer clear?
In some instances, we do have a lot of input into the shows. We have an original production team in Asia, so there are projects that we will add comments to, and we'll have a lot of involvement in. And I know our US studios as well is there to guide some production in the right direction when we've picked up the property, to make it a very Cartoon Network show. But in Tom's case, in Mr. Bean's case, it's such a carefully crafted show that our involvement, we just let those guys get on with it, and it's
that is massively unusual for me, especially. I've got no broadcaster input across the whole show, which is a bit freaky, which is quite liberating, but also quite scary, because I've got to not second guess, but just produce something that I'm confident that the channel will like and will play for that. But we have heritage in that first series, and we're referencing it the whole time. So, and we have a creator led, and so he's across the whole thing. So,
do you think you could do all this from scratch today? I mean, if you had the idea of an animated Bean right now, would you be able to build it? And conversely, do you think you might be able to build it quicker because of some of the channels that exist?
It's a really interesting one, because I'm pitching continually to broadcasters the new ideas, and it never gets any easier. And if I went to them with a idea about a grown man who talks to his teddy, and then is a bit of an idiot, to be honest, I don't think I'd get very far with it. But because we have that heritage and it was there and it was a known brand, then it was fine. But I think as a cold standalone, I just don't think it would have gone.
And given the kind of the structural approach that is really, you've been immersed in for so many years, are you always on the lookout? Do you see other potential Beans out there, or do you think that it's a very unique proposition, what's happened? I mean, I can't think off the top of my head, apart from things like the Harlem Globetrotters, of many examples of a successful transition like this. I mean,
as in big brands to...
Yeah, big brands, big personalities, live action characters that can be taken to animation. I mean,
yeah, absolutely. I've always looked at what we can do, and big characters, but there's not many that are global, and also that enough people know about to transfer to animation. But definitely have looked at that. I mean, I know there are other ones that are out there. There's a Charlie Chaplin's that are doing out there as well. So,
is Scooby-Doo not real then?
No one told you. Yeah. Okay, more questions coming through from the audience. 3D animation is much easier to do these days compared to 2D animation. Did you ever think of turning Bean into a 3D proposition?
No. I mean, I don't really like 3D. No, I'm a massive 2D champion, and I think it has the heart and soul. But also, we wanted to match the first series and match it as it was hand-drawn. I think if we did that in a CGI, generated way, I think it would have lost a lot of what we've got and what we've created here to give it that classic look. So didn't even question.
Another one that has gradually been gaining interest amongst the audience is the issue of safeguarding the brand. I mean, the audience have come up with this idea about what would happen if Rowan Atkinson decided to retire. I mean, he doesn't really strike me as the retiring type, but where does the brand reside? I mean, how do you kind of future-proof and protect the brand?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. What do you do? I mean, I don't think Rowan's going to retire very soon. He's a very active guy and is always looking for new projects. And I think, going forward, I think it'd be great to do some more Mr. Bean.
Son of Bean.
What's that?
Son of Bean.
Yeah, I don't think so. Teddy's own series, which says absolutely nothing. No, I think, yes, I mean, I think we could carry on. I think, he is very much involved across it, so it's difficult to do it without him. But I think there's still legs in there and possibly, more things to come.
Yeah. I might ask Gary this one. The 3D, 2D thing has come up again, and just people asking about where they think the trend is moving. That's interesting what you're saying about how 2D felt absolutely right for this show. Do you see the trend away from 2D towards 3D or not? No.
I mean, what we've experienced on our channel, we've got Pink Panther and Powers, which is, it's still kept that sort of grainy feel. That's going gangbusters on the channel. Warner Brothers have toyed with the idea of maybe bringing Scooby-Doo up to date in the CG world. It hasn't worked. They're very traditional shows. They've kept that traditional look. Some shows work, some shows don't. But I think kids, if it's a good show, I mean SpongeBob, would that work better? Would that take it to the next level if it was CG? I don't think it's that important. I think as long as it's a good show, I think 2D, 3D, it doesn't matter. Do
you want to say anything on that, Tom, or do you think he covered it?
No, totally agree. I mean, I will do a CGI show soon, but it has to, be a show that wants that or, works well with that. I'm not going to try and do it or force it because it works well for merchandise or whatever, and it's a rounded figure. I mean, we did Charlie and Lola, which is 2D, and there was a difficulty in going to merchandise from that because it's so flat and cut out, but there's no other way of doing that, especially because it was a book to TV property.
Another question more about the technique of animation. Moving from hand-drawn to digital animation, did you develop the software yourself, or is it a commercially available package?
No, I mean, Cell Action 2D is a commercially available package. We just, they're very adaptable and work with us to develop the software to make it work. So that they have done on all our shows that we've done with them. So no, it's available anywhere. We're not software developers, but we are enhancing the software by doing what we want to do and investing in to make it work.
Yeah. And sticking with you for a minute, I mean, we were talking with Gary just earlier on about the kind of things he needs to have beyond the show. From your own perspective, I mean, are you thinking in terms of a third series of animation? Are you thinking of being the game? I mean, where do you go next with the animation extensions?
I mean, yes, we have lots of stuff in development. We have a game and apps that are coming out. And also, I mean, it's a difficult one when we do get a commission from a broadcaster to make a show. There's the other bits that are extra that sometimes are asked to be delivered, where the costs come from those. But, that's a tricky one because, we're a partner, we want to make it work everywhere. But I think sometimes it's difficult to have to fund those yourself as well as producing the show, which, sometimes is very difficult to get the money just to do that, let alone to give you everything else as well.
And it's extremely important to be in that digital space. I know you've got something coming up afterwards, but kids will engage with the show and then they want to go and play the game, or they want to, watch a clip when it's not on their mobile, or, it's very important to have that, second.
I can have half an hour break now because you've just done it all.
Sorry.
Tell me about what you do in advance of the show's launch. I mean, when exactly is the show due to?
The show will launch in April across Southeast Asia. We've got the first season launching in Australia just to seed it in and start promoting. Hopefully we'll have some games, some clips. So we'll start probably about 2 months out, just dropping it in. And getting the kids excited about, the new season forthcoming. And then we'll do the traditional on-channel launch, which is the promo campaign and the print campaign. But it's really about introducing the show on the apps, on mobile games if possible, because, some kids will think that, the game came first, then the show, So it's just about grabbing their attention and, trying to drive them back to the channel. So it'll be quite a traditional launch, effectively, but with all the sort of add-ons of mobile and apps beforehand.
Yeah. Okay, we've got. Go on.
Just to say, I did miss a clip in my presentation. I forgot to play it. So if you want to end on something with Rowan instead of us three talking, you
Okay,
can do.
we can do that. I mean, answer one final question, then we'll play out with the last clip. Tips for aspiring animators. If you were talking to the youngsters in the audience about how to make headway in this business.
I'm a youngster, just to say.
Yes, you think so. Yeah, go on. What would you say?
What tips for what?
Yeah, tips for people breaking into the business or trying to get started. Is anything you would say to them?
I don't know. I think with this 2D and CGI, and there's all this computer animation, and some people just go straight computer animation. I think you've still got to keep the initial skill of drawing, and don't lose that. Just keep drawing and designing. Don't just go straight to learning how to animate on a software. I mean, there are animators that have never drawn ever before, and I think you still need that basic nuance of how that ball bounces, how that horse runs, all those kind of basic animation skills before you can animate and give something a character.
Okay, Gary and Tom, thanks for your time. So do you have that clip
I'll tell you which one it is.
Tom is referring
to? So this
to?
was, I forgot to talk about, again, it is amazing how much involvement Rowan has on this series. And on the first series, Rowan wasn't happy with the noises the Mini made, the car, I'm allowed to call it Mini, Mr. Bean's car. And so we hired a car of a certain age, specific to which Rowan requested. And we took that Mini to an airfield, and Rowan drove that round, and we recorded all the sounds. So every sound that you hear from the car in the animation series is Rowan pulling a handbrake, tooting a horn, opening a door, opening the bonnet, is Rowan Atkinson, which is bizarre. That's what? Yeah, okay, he wrote off the car, but there we go. So if you could play clip 7, please.
Thank you very much, Gary Finnegan and Tom Beattie.